guys, what is going on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now, before we get into today's video, I got two amazing pieces of news for you guys. The first one is I'm finally getting a haircut. Finally, after 3 months, or at least 50 days of not being able to get a haircut, I'm finally gonna get a haircut. I already booked an appointment with my hairstylist. Finally, with the restrictions easing out a bit during the quarantine, hair salons are gonna open up again. And you know, the first thing I did after I heard the news was like, yo, I need to hit up my hairstylist. So I'm gonna get a haircut on the 10th, and today, while I'm recording this, is I don't know, because my phone is not telling me because it's charging. So the place where it says the date is the percentage, it's the 8th. So 2 more days, and then finally I don't need to wear just anything, just towels and caps and all that stuff. Anyway, second big announcement for you guys is obviously I've already recorded the 4 million pack opening. It's amazing, guys. Over 120 packs. I get legendaries, epics, ultra rares, you name it, right? So it's a really good pack opening, and I will release all 4 of those episodes once we hit 4,000 subscribers. We're about 100 subscribers away, so I would really appreciate it if we could get 4,000 as soon as possible. Really appreciate your support. Anyway, with those announcements out of the way, let's get into a new series. Today it's a new series, but it's a short one, 7 episodes max. I'm going to take you through the journey on a comprehensive tour or guide to championships. So if we go into single player here, as you can see, we're going to go into championships, and as you can see, I've completed championships really recently. I finished Road to Yellowbird. I have the Yellowbird, so I feel like if there was anyone that was going to make a video on how to get through championships, or the beginner's guide, or the essential guide, or just the guide to finishing championships, it would be me, because I so far am I'm one of the only 3 big Top Drives YouTubers right now that actually finished this and get the roof. And I feel like nobody should be making a guide on how to win the roof if you haven't won the roof. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna start off with California, USA. Why? Is because I feel like the game actually wants the newer players to start off with California, USA, and because of that, we're gonna start off with California, USA. And why I think the game wants us to start with California is because there's a pattern between all countries. Germany, you need ×5 German cars for all track sets. Hampshire, or all levels. Hampshire in the UK, you need ×5 UK for all. France, you need ×5 French cars for all levels. The only one that's the outlier here is California, USA, which is, and because of that, I feel like they want California to be the starting point, which makes sense because you get German rewards from the US campaign, as you can see, German premiums, and that helps you to Germany, and then that gives you UK packs, and that helps you with the UK. So there's obviously a route that Hutch would like you to follow, especially if you're a newer player. Obviously, for me, I went from the US, then I went to like the UK, then I went to Japan, then I went to Germany, then Italy, then France. But obviously, there is somewhat of a hazy route for you to follow, because in USA, instead of ×5 US across the board, it only starts being ×5 on level 5. The first 5 levels is actually USA ×1, ×2, ×3, ×4, ×5. So that's some good knowledge for you if you were interested to know if that was a difference between any of the levels. Everything else is more or less the same. A little bit of tweaks here and there with the RQs, but with that said, let's get into the in-depth review of California, USA in the Roof Championships. Alright guys, so here we are. This is how I'm going to do it. I took about an hour and a half on how to actually plan how the series is going to work. It's a lot of information that I'm trying to compress efficiently in a small amount of time to help you guys. So what I did here is I'm going to give you a series of 10 images here, 10 levels, right? The first part is going to show you the requirements and the rewards. The second part is going to show you what your opponent is. And finally, the last part are the cars that I would recommend. Not particularly the cars I used, but now when I'm putting more thought into it, the cars that I would recommend. As you guys remembered, when I first started off with championships, I was really like overconfident. There was so much hype, and I actually failed the US twice because of my own overconfidence. So because of that, I've really put a lot of thought into these new hands, and they're all fitting with the new RQ system. So it's gonna fit. These are viable hands, and they're gonna fit with all the requirements needed as well. So starting us off here is level 1. So obviously all the pictures is gonna be the same format, right? So it's gonna be the level, the opponent's hand, and my hand. And shout out to Mousetrap. I actually got these pictures from KT Play because you can actually go in the levels if you don't have Renown, which is a little annoying. So I can't even see what I'm racing against if I don't have the Renown. So I had to go on KT Play to fish out what the opponent's levels are. So with that said, let's jump into it. So level 1 here, we are greeted with the GMC Denali, which is one of the best American rares, one of the best rare cars in the game on Highway. We got Twisty and 3 drags. The way I see it, I see 4 fast, 1 twisty. You're gonna see me use this terminology a lot, you know, 4 fast, 1 twisty, or 3 fast, 2 twisty, or 3 fast, 1 twisty, 1 all-rounder, which is usually the hairpin road. That's how I kind of just compress the information in my head to make a viable deck. So this is the hand that I would recommend. So I would recommend mirroring the Denali, getting the Dodge Stealth for twisty, then the Corvette C2 for the 1 mile, the Corvette C3 for the other 1 mile, and then the Challenger TA for the half mile. Now, once again, these are cars that I recommend, and you know, these are cars that I feel like a lot of people should have regardless. Newer player, if you're a new player, intermediate player, or an advanced player, especially if you're advanced or intermediate, these are cars that I would expect you to have in your garage already. Now, bear in mind, every car I show you here in my recommended hand are my own, so I own these cars, and they're also all maxed out. All right, now you don't need to max out everything for championships, but definitely at least 2 stars, sometimes even over, and sometimes maybe even max out. So these are the cars that I recommend for level 1. And once again, there are other cars that can do the job right. You know, instead of using the Corvette C2, you could use the Pontiac Firebird prize car. But another rule that I put into this is that I'm not going to use any prize cars. What Mousetrap did, and you can see on his KT Play posts, is that he used prize cars. Now I understand that a lot of newer players would not have the prize cars, you know, at their disposal. So all the cars here are attainable. You can get them from prize boards, from packs, and all that kind of stuff. So once again, I would recommend this. It's really, you know, just kind of the bread and butter of American rares. Not all of them. The Challenger isn't really that essential. The Corvette, everybody has it. If you start the game, you get that Corvette. The C3 at least. The C2 is a good one to get. Great MRA on that. It's a great substitute if you don't have the Firebird prize car. And the Stealth and the Denali, those are essential, right? Those are cars that not only needed for championships, they are useful for events, multiplayer events, as well as clubs. And as you can see, I will try my best throughout all the levels to try and recycle the car. So as you can see in level 2, I'm using the C3 and the Stealth again. I'm gonna try my best to recycle cars so that you guys don't need to go around and collect a large variety. I'll try my best to kind of compress everything in a small pool to make it as easy for you guys as well. So for level 2, this is what we have. We have USA ×2, Rare Performance ×4, RQ 200. For level 2, we are greeted with a Stealth on the opponent's side, a Stealth on the half mile, a Pontiac Fiero on the hairpin, Beretta on the highway 0 to 100 with the Trans Am, and finally, this is the hardest part, the slalom with the Ram Charger. Now, when I first did this level, once again, I was overconfident. I put a 4-wheel drive standard tire, I think it was the Caliber SRT4 all-wheel drive, on the slalom because I was like, you know what, this is mixed, this isn't 100% dirt, you know, there's gonna be a bit of road on there, so I think, you know, especially I wanted to save RQ at the time when the RQ limits were a lot more cutthroat or tight. I ended up using 4-wheel drive standard, and I ended up losing. So just to, you know, just a piece of advice for you guys, don't let this trick you. Just go for an off-roader car. If you can, you could always mirror this Ram Charger. If not, I recommend the K5 Blazer because the K5 Blazer is actually useful outside of championships as well. All right, so I put a lot of thought into this. Trust me, I put a lot of thought into this. These are cars that are useful outside of championships, but they'll also definitely help you in championships. Okay, so for the half mile, I'm going with the Dodge Coronet. The Dodge Coronet is a very good car. In fact, you know, oh wait, no, I was gonna say in fact you could use the GTX, but you can't because you need 4 rare. So yes, the GTX will be amazing. If you don't want to, not the GTX, I mean the GTX would be amazing, but you can't use it. So the Coronet is amazing as well. You can definitely use this. If you don't have the Coronet, you know, some other substitutes that would beat the stuff on the half mile would also be the Corvette C3 that I recommended earlier from level 1, the, you know, Camaro Z28, What else? The Corvette. No, I can't say the C3. The C2 for sure, but not the C3 because the C3 we're using it for the 0 to 100. Now for the hairpin, I'm going with the Dodge Stealth, and then for highway, we're just mirroring the Berettas. The Beretta is actually a very good car to have. It has great handling at 85. It's also medium ground clearance, and you know when it comes to high handling American cars, it's very rare. So the Beretta is definitely a good one to have in your arsenal. But once again, this is the hand that I would recommend for level 2. Moving on to level 3. By now I think you guys get the gist of how I'm gonna plan out everything, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on each level after this. So for level 3, USA cars times 3, rare performance times 5, and an RQ limit of 235. Your opponents are right here, and the car that I really want you to look out for, I think the hardest section here is this fast circuit, right? Because it's not the fact that the IROC is a hard car to beat, it's the fact that you need to use rare cars only. So essentially you're already at a disadvantage because this is a super rare, so the stats are most likely better. So this is where upgrading your cars are really important. So this is the only time I'm actually using a non-American car for this. Everything else is 100% USA, but obviously as you can see here, it's USA times 3. So technically you don't even need to use the 4 American cars that I'm suggesting over here. You could even just use 3, right? Because you can use 2 that are non. So what I'm doing here is we are using the Dodge Coronet for the quarter mile against the Dodge Coronet. Obviously my Coronet is max, his isn't. Mine is 996 as well, his isn't. Obviously you can't really see the stats because the quality of Mousetrap's picture isn't very good, but I will guarantee you this is going to be a win. Next is the Lamborghini Yalpa against the IROC, because that is the most suitable car truly, and the Yalpa is also a very good rare to keep around. Once again, we are recycling the Corvette C3 and the Dodge Stealth, and finally the Challenger as well. So these are cars that are coming back that we've seen we used in the past. Challenger's going against the Lumina in the quarter, Stealth against the Lumina again on the Twisty, and finally the C3 against the Firebird in the half mile. So moving on to level 4, this is where super rare requirements come into hand. So USA times 4, super rare times 2, RQ 235. Once again, this is California USA Championships level 4. So the 2 super rares that we're pulling in now is the El Camino and the Corvette ZR2. Now both this Corvette ZR2, the C3 ZR2, as well as the Camino are very important super rares moving on with the US Championship level. So these are cars I would highly recommend you to get. Both of them are 996. Alright, so the Camino starts us off going against the Camino in the quarter mile. Next we're recycling the C3, sorry I keep calling this the C3. We're recycling the C2 once again against the C4 on the 0 to 100. Once again, don't underestimate the C2's MRA. It's really good, and obviously I have it maxed out, so 4.6 to 5.2, it's gonna win. Moving on, we're recycling again. See the C3. Once again, I'm trying to use as many cars as possible here. So we're using the C3 once again to go against the Firebird, and then finally we're going to go with the Corvette ZR2 against the HSR on the test ball, and finally the Z28, a newcomer, a car that we haven't used before, to go against and mirror that Z28 on the 1 mile. Some of the cars that you can use to beat this Z28 on the 1 mile would be cars like the Plymouth Superbird and of course the Pontiac Firebird, but both of those cars are prize cars, so if you don't have them, the Z28 is a good bet. If you have the Z28 though, the Z28 is a good bet, but if you have the Firebird or the Superbird, most likely you have the Firebird, but probably not the Superbird. I would recommend that as well. The Superbird would be amazing for any of these drags. Bear in mind, the Superbird and the Firebird would both be amazing. The Firebird would be so many birds. The Firebird would be the best dragster. It's the best American dragster. So if you have the Firebird, you can always replace one of these current dragsters I'm recommending to you with the Pontiac Firebird, Pontiac Trans Am Firebird prize car. So many birds. Anyway, moving on to level 5 now, we need 3 super rares as you can see. Same RQ limit, and these are the cars I recommend. So this one is kind of an interesting one where I'm actually deploying the use of the Dodge Caravan. There are not a lot of cars that I'm really confident about that can beat the Plymouth Duster. I believe that is a Duster on the fast circuit in the rain. As you can see, the Duster has standard tires. So some of the 2 cars I would recommend is either this Dodge Caravan, which is what I used, or you could always mirror the Plymouth Duster. I don't have the Duster, and that's why I use the Caravan. In other words, for the fast circuit, I'm using the Dodge, what is that called? It's not the Daytona IROC, it's the Spirit, the Dodge Spirit. This is actually a good car. For 16 RQ, no, not 16 RQ anymore, for 43 RQ, 4.80 to 60, 86 handling, and medium is actually some very good stats, because because 43 RQ is the lower end of super rare. Those are some really good stats for a lower end super rare. So I would recommend using the Dodge Spirit, and you'll be seeing this in the future as well. It's not the only time I'm going to be showing you and using the Spirit. Moving on in the 1 mile, once again recycling that C2, and then the Caravan for the fast circuit, the Camino and the ZR2. Once again, we see them. Once again, we saw them in the last level. We see them now on the quarter and a half. Moving on to level 6, as you can see, increments, increments, increments. Now we're on super rare times 4. Next level, you guessed it, is super rare times 5. So USA cars times 5, super rare times 4. This is the hand I recommend to you. Once again, we see the stealth to go against the Jeff Gordon edition. That's not an Impala, is it? I can't remember what Monte Carlo. That's a Monte Carlo. Jeff Gordon Monte Carlo against the stealth on the highway. Now on the medium, we are going to be using the SSR, basically just mirroring it. Once again, talking about essential super rares to keep, the Chevy SSR is an essential. 4.6, 86 medium for a mid-tier super rare. That is the best of its class, in my opinion. Well, best of its class in terms of city streets, right? Because there is another medium American car that has more handling, and that is the second car that we're going to use. That's the Dodge Daytona IROC. Now, if you watch my garage review episodes, you know that I love the Dodge Daytona IROC. Not only because it's a Dodge, but it's actually a very good super rare. I can't stress this enough. The Dodge Daytona IROC is the only American super rare, the only one that is not a prize car, that goes over 90 handling. That is something that is actually, like, that is insane. All right, so that's why I'm using that against the Chevrolet Code on the half mile, and on the hairpin, once again using the same 2 cars, the Camino and the ZR2. Now the ZR2 in the championships actually has more handling than the 996 ZR2. Don't worry, I've tested it out. The 996 does beat the 969, but, well, almost 969, but it's a very, very close call. Anyway, moving on to level 7 now. It's super rare times 5, USA cars times 5, mix as well. We start us off with the slalom again with the Lil Red, and against the Lil Red, I'm using the Chevrolet Suburban. I like to call it the Tahoe, but this is obviously the longer wheelbase, which is the Suburban. This is a car that we'll be using later on as well, so don't worry, this isn't a one-time wonder. I try and keep away and stay away from the one-time wonders. I think the only one-time wonder car here is that Dodge Caravan, and once again, that's a very niche race, so it's either the Caravan or maybe that Monte Carlo might go through. I'm not sure, but either the Caravan or the Duster, right? Moving on to the test bowl, once again, as you can see, using the Camino and the ZR2. Obviously, everybody knows the Colorado ZR2, but this Corvette C3 is also a ZR2. Using that for the test bowl, the Camino against the SSR on the quarter mile. I'm using this Chevrolet IROC on the fast circuit, and finally, once again, we see the Dodge Spirit to go against the Cadillac on the twisty. It's going to be a pretty close one, that one, 4.8 to 4.7, but once again, it's 80 handling to 86. The power of a maxed car. Moving on to level 8, now we go into ultra rare requirements. We need 1 ultra rare, level 9 would be 2, and level 10 would be 3. USA cars times 5, ultra rare times 1, RQ 300, and once again, I don't think I need to say this, but I feel like I should. These are all 3-star hands, okay? They're all 3-star hands. You will not lose. So moving on, we finally use some ultras. Now the 2 ultras I would recommend you to use would be the Aerovet and the Viper. If you don't have the Viper SRT10, I would definitely recommend, you know, Corvette Grand Sport C4. If you don't have the Aerovet though, that's gonna be a tough call. You would need to change your hand up a little bit, because that would mean you will need to have another ultra for the twisty stuff, and then deploy your faster, maybe super rares or rares on the fast. Once again, these are my recommendations. You know, there are over 1,000 cars in top drives, over 1 million different ways you could beat this, but this, in my opinion, is probably the best route to go. So the Viper and the Aerovet, Viper on the hairpin, Aerovet on the highway. Once again, the Stealth on the car park, and then we're gonna have the Suburban once again on Canyon boot. And then finally we have the Corvette C2 on the 0 to 120. So once again, a lot of recycling. Moving on to level 9 now, we need 2 ultra rares. We're using the same ultras that we used in level 8, the Viper and the Aerovet on the 0 to 100 against the Mustang, and the Viper against the Viper on the highway. Now my Aerovet is 996 and my Viper is 699. Quick pro tip for you guys: 699 SRT10 is better than 969. Now moving on, we're using the Dodge Spirit once again on the car park. Park, Daytona comes back, so it's not a one car wonder on Twisty, and then obviously for the final round, the 1 mile, we're gonna use the Corvette C2. The C2 is such a good car. Some of the most frequent cars I use here would be the Camino, the Corvette C2, as well as the Corvette C3 ZR2 and the Dodge Stealth. Those cars are essential. Now, finding level 10. Level 10 is pretty tough because throughout the US campaign in California, you've basically been trialed and tested with your dragsters. You know, there were 2 track sets before this where there were 2 mixed, but everything else was dragsters. So suddenly, you know, level 10 is like, boom, it's gonna be more off-road than more on-road. So this is where you need to be prepared. So I did my best here. I recycled 3 cars with the Spirit in the medium, the Suburban in Canyon, and the Aerovet in the half mile, but then we see 2 newcomers, and that is going to be the Escalade and the Tahoe. Now, these newcomers, you know, as much as I didn't want them here because, you know, recycling cars makes it easier for everybody, they're essential. I need them there because the tracks are completely different from the 9 levels before, as we see 2 more added off-road tracks or mixed tracks. So I'm using the Escalade and I'm using the Tahoe, but obviously there are a lot more different ways you can do it. Another way that you could do it is you could probably replace. You could try. I'm not sure if you would completely win this, but you could think about replacing maybe that Escalade with maybe a K5 Blazer, or maybe what you could do is put the K5 Blazer against the Silverado on Canyon, then you could put the Suburban against the GMC Denali on Slalom, and that, you know, that means you only need the Tahoe, but that would mean that, you know, you would need another ultra rare somewhere else because you took out the Escalade, so that would probably mean you would need to replace the Spirit with, you know, a medium ultra American car, so maybe like a Dodge Charger SRT8. Once again, there are a million possibilities, but this is the one that I recommend to you. Obviously, even if this doesn't help you, because I know a lot of people are not gonna have that Escalade. It's not a car most people keep, but you know, if you do have it, lucky for you. If you don't have it, once again, there are a million other ways that you can beat it, but this is the way that I'm recommending. So with that said, let's get back into my garage. Guys, that was the complete guide to California, USA. I hope this helped. Please, please, please comment down below with feedback. Let me know if this kind of style is easy for you guys to understand. If it is, I'll continue it that way with Germany and the UK, France. I mean, I passed it, so that's going to be a bit hard, though, because a lot of the cars that I used to pass that I actually don't have in my garage anymore. Everything else, I kind of still have it. But, you know, if this format was easy for you guys to understand, let me know down in the comments below. If you found this helpful, also let me know. And obviously, I will continue with Germany and all the other. Obviously, at this series, you can only do 7 episodes max, right? 6 countries, and then Road to the Yellowbird. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really appreciate all the support. Once again, please, if we could hit 4,000 subscribers super soon, I would greatly appreciate it, and you will too, because you'll be seeing an amazing pack opening. But with that said, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember to stay safe, and I'll see you all next time. Wash your hands and blossom out.